Have you ever brought up a certain topic with her and felt the room quietly tighten before she even replied? Not anger, not denial, just a subtle pause, a small deflection, a change in tone that says, let's not go there. The words sound normal, but the energy doesn't. She shifts the subject, she jokes, she gets vague, and suddenly the conversation that felt safe a second ago feels restricted, like you've stepped near an invisible line. Most men are taught that pushing topics makes you controlling, that if she doesn't want to talk about something, you should drop it and move on. But there's a difference between respecting boundaries and noticing avoidance. Because avoidance isn't silence, it's movement away from something that creates emotional pressure. Not every uncomfortable topic means betrayal, and not every change means another man. But when one subject consistently disappears from the room, it's worth asking why. This video isn't here to make you suspicious. It's here to help you understand what avoidance really signals and how to read it without fear, without ego, and without turning yourself into someone you don't recognize. There are moments in a relationship when you cannot point to one clear wrong behavior. No strange messages, no confessions, no proof. But you feel that the rhythm between the two of you has changed, not with logic, but with a very quiet intuition. It is like listening to a familiar song where a few notes are off, small enough that you do not stop right away, but wrong enough that your heart can no longer relax like before. Men often ignore the early signs, not because they are naive, but because they do not want to become someone who suspects without cause. You have been hurt before, so you are afraid of ruining something that might still be good. You choose gentle explanations for everything. She is probably tired, work is stressful, everyone goes through a closed-off phase, and every time your intuition knocks softly, you put tape over it. But suspicion, when it shows up quietly, not loudly, not bitterly, is not weakness. It is a self-protective signal from your nervous system. Like when you are driving and you see a warning light blinking, you do not need to panic, but you also should not turn it off just because you have not heard any strange noise yet. The problem is this: men are often taught to be strong by enduring. You endure the ambiguity, you endure not being asked back, you endure the feeling that you are walking faster than she is, and then you blame yourself. Maybe I am asking for too much. When in reality, you are only trying to know, where do I stand in her life? Look at some very real examples. You talk about plans for the next few months. She smiles, nods, and then steers the conversation somewhere else. You talk about what the two of you would do if you moved to another city. She says, we will talk about it later. You share a very real worry. She answers correctly, but she does not touch your emotion. None of these are big enough to convict anyone. But when these small pieces repeat, you start to feel like you are talking to someone who is no longer in the same honest space as you. And then men often make a dangerous mistake. They rationalize the mismatch. You tell yourself that love means patience, that if you are better, softer, easier to be with, everything will go back to normal. But here is an uncomfortable truth. Some mismatches do not come from you not being good enough. They come from the fact that the two of you are no longer walking in the same direction. Suspicion in this case is not an accusation. It is an inner question. What am I feeling? And am I ignoring that feeling? In this video, we are not looking for proof. We are not interrogating. We are not accusing. We are simply reading very small patterns, everyday signs that, if you pay attention long enough, paint a much clearer picture than any words ever could. And among all those patterns, there is one theme. If she keeps avoiding it when you touch on it, it is not because you are saying the wrong thing. It is because you are speaking directly into the place where the truth does not want to stay. If you have ever felt that something was off but you could not name it yet, like the video or leave a short comment, I've felt this. When a woman starts to form another connection, whether it is only emotional or already crossing a line, a blind spot appears in communication. Not a forbidden zone you create, but a place she does not want to stay in for too long. And very often that place is the future of the two of you. Not because talking about the future is wrong, but because talking about the future forces her to be honest about your position in her life right now. Below are some surface patterns, light to medium level, that give you the feeling, I have seen this before, but I could not name it. Sign 1. She changes the subject when you talk about the future. Specific behavior. You mention plans for the next few months, a trip, an idea about living together, or just something like, what will we be like this summer? She listens for a few seconds, and then very naturally steers the conversation somewhere else. Not sharp, not defensive, just not staying there. The psychology behind it: when someone's inner direction is no longer aligned, they avoid questions that force them to define their position. Changing the subject is the softest way to not lie, but also not tell the truth. The common mistake men make: you tell yourself, she is probably not ready for big talks yet. And then you stop bringing that topic up to keep the atmosphere calm. Her logic response: you notice it. You do not push, you do not pull, you keep the topic open, but you do not force it. At the same time, you reduce emotional investment in places where it is not being received. If this pattern feels familiar, comment, yes. Sign 2. She gives vague, non-committal answers. Specific behavior. When you ask, what do you think about us in 6 months? Her answers sound like, we will see. I do not know yet. Let us take it slow. They sound normal, but when they repeat again and again, they create a fog. The psychology behind it. When there is another option in the mind, even if it is not clear yet, people do not want to lock themselves into one direction. Being vague keeps all the doors slightly open. The mistake men make: you wait inside the uncertainty. You believe time will make things clearer, when in reality, time only makes you invest deeper in a space that has not been defined. How her logic sees it: do not listen to vague words, watch behavior. Clarity is not in the sentences, but in her level of initiative in building something with you. If this pattern feels familiar, leave a short comment. Seen it. Sign 3. She uses logic to avoid emotion. Specific behavior. You talk about the future from an emotional place. I want to know where I stand in your life. She answers very reasonably. My work is not stable yet. The situation does not allow it. The timing is not right. It sounds correct, it sounds mature, but it does not touch what you are actually saying. The psychology behind it: when the heart has split directions, the head speaks instead. Logic becomes a shield to avoid facing the real emotion. The mistake men make: you think she is being matured and sold, and then you force yourself to be logical too, when what you actually need is connection, not arguments. Her logic action. Compare the emotional temperature before and after. Not what she says, but which part of herself she is speaking from when she talks to you. Sign 4. She talks a lot about freedom, but little about bonding. Specific behavior. She emphasizes, I need space. I want to be myself. I do not like feeling tied down. There is nothing wrong with freedom, but when it appears exactly when you talk about a shared future, it is no longer a life philosophy. It becomes a new boundary. The psychology behind it: she is mentally preparing for a turn. People talk about freedom the most when they do not want to commit to one specific direction. The mistake men make: you hold tighter, you invest more, hoping to make her feel secure. Her logic: you create more space and observe. If she wants connection, she will step toward you. If you are starting to feel the mismatch, like the video, to continue. Sign 5. She does not ask what you think in return. Specific behavior. You talk about the future, about your feelings. She listens, but she does not ask. And what about you? How do you feel? The psychology behind it: loss of curiosity equals loss of investment. When someone no longer cares about your inner world, they no longer place you at the center of their story. The mistake: you swallow your emotions. You tell yourself, she is just not good at asking questions. Her logic: you recognize that the silence itself is a message. Sign 6. She avoids this topic again and again, not once, but many times. Not by accident, but consistently. The psychology: when a truth does not want to be faced, people avoid it regularly, like avoiding a room they do not want to enter. The mistake: you think, it is probably a coincidence. Her logic looks at patterns, not single situations. And these patterns are leading you to something deeper, a place where you do not only see her avoiding the future, but you start to see yourself disappearing from the future of the relationship itself. After everything you've just taken in, you're probably not feeling certain. You're feeling suspended, not angry, not convinced, just quietly uneasy. Like your mind keeps moving back and forth between, this is probably nothing, and this doesn't feel right. And honestly, each moment on its own still seems too small, too vague to draw any real conclusion. But the real issue is almost never one topic, one reaction, or one moment. It's the rhythm of the relationship shifting beneath you. It's the direction things slowly start drifting in, like the temperature in a room rising so gradually you don't notice until you're already uncomfortable. Like a steering wheel turned just a few degrees, and miles later, you're no longer headed where you thought you were. Or like a low background noise that plays so long, silence begins to feel strange. What matters most isn't just what she avoids, it's what you start doing inside yourself to live with that avoidance. When you find yourself constantly softening your own concerns, when your inner voice keeps saying, it's probably nothing, or I'm just reading too much into this. That kind of self talk isn't weakness. It's data, not about guilt, not about blame, but about how your sense of emotional safety is slowly being negotiated away. And from here, the patterns shift into a deeper layer. What comes next doesn't live in mild confusion anymore. It shows up in the quiet ways a man begins to lose his footing in a relationship without even realizing it. This is where many people later look back and say, I felt it. I just didn't want to see it. If you've ever been in that space, stay with me. In part 2, you saw the surface signs, light, vague, just enough to make you uncomfortable, but not enough to make you stop. Now we go deeper, into patterns that do not just say something about her, but say a lot about how you are rationalizing everything. The danger is not in her behavior. The danger is in how you are using your logic to blind your own heart. Imagine you are driving and there is a red warning light flashing on your dashboard. You do not stop the car, you just put tape over the light. Deep sign 4. You are the only one talking about us. The behavior. You are the one bringing up the future most of the time. You are the one asking, Wayne, where are we going? What are we becoming? How do you feel about us? And she rarely starts those conversations. Why this feels uncomfortable? Because you start to realize only one person is holding the rope. The psychology behind it. When someone is still in the relationship by desire, they talk about direction. When someone is only staying by habit, they let the other person talk. The mistake men make. You tell yourself, I am just the one who cares more. But deep down, you are ignoring a reality, the imbalance of investment. The metaphor, it is like rowing a boat built for two people. You are rowing. She is sitting. The boat is still moving, only because you have not stopped. Deep sign 5. She is not afraid of losing you. The behavior, you go quiet, she does not ask. You pull back, she does not reach. You text less, she does not increase. Why this hits so deep? Because it touches the core fear of many men. Do I still matter? The psychology behind it. When someone is afraid of losing you, they instinctively hold on. When they are not afraid anymore, they let things drift. The mistake, you think she is just not the clingy type. But this calmness is not freedom. It is detachment. The metaphor, it is like a broken compass. The needle still moves, but you no longer know where north is. Deep sign 6. You start interpreting things in her favor. The behavior. Every time something feels off, you automatically explain it for her. She is probably tired. It is probably work. She is probably just stressed. Not once, but as a reflex. Why this is dangerous? Because you are doing two things at the same time. 1, protecting her image. 2, ignoring your own feelings. The psychology. When the truth starts to hurt, the mind looks for ways to soften it. And the easiest way is rationalization. The metaphor. It is like seeing a crack in the wall and painting over it instead of checking whether the foundation is failing. Deep sign 7 and the most painful. You are in her future, but no longer in her heart. The behavior. She still says, we will be fine. She is still there. But you no longer feel chosen every day. You feel like you are being kept, not wanted. Why this makes a man feel empty? Because deep down, men do not need to be possessed. Men need to be desired. The uncomfortable truth, the most painful part, is not that she may have changed. It is that you stayed too long in a story where you are no longer the main character. And here's the psychological climax. The danger is not that she avoids the topic of the future. The danger is that you are still talking about the future with someone who no longer places you in it. If you are here right now, you are not alone. A lot of strong, kind, responsible men have sat in this same place, not yelling, not causing drama, just quietly watching themselves disappear from the shared picture. If this touches you, subscribe to the channel. Not to become more suspicious, but to become more awake and more self-respecting. There is a very dangerous moment in a man's emotional life, not when you discover the truth, but when you start thinking, just a little more, you tell yourself, just a little more and she will become clear. Just a little more and things will go back to how they were. Just a little more and we will understand each other again. But the truth is, some relationships do not need more effort. They need the right moment to stop. The strongest sign is not that she lies, not that she disappears. It is this. She is no longer afraid of losing you when you talk about the future. You talk about tomorrow, and she does not feel the need to keep you there. You go quiet, and she does not move toward you. You step back, and she does not reach. And now the real question is no longer, what is she doing? But well, what am I doing to myself? Like, you are trying to hold on to someone who is no longer choosing you. You are investing in a future you are no longer invited into. You are trading self-respect for a vague kind of presence. This is where the thinking has to flip. Just a little more. Knowing when to stop. Stopping is not weakness. Stopping is when you are awake enough to say, I deserve to be in a relationship where my presence is wanted, not just kept. Self-respect is not coldness. It is the boundary where you stop lying to yourself by saying, I am fine, while every day you are getting smaller inside your own story. A healthy relationship does not ask you to trade yourself just to stay. It allows you to be yourself and still be chosen. And this is where the her logic mindset comes back again. Not to make you suspicious, not to make you interrogate, but to help you read patterns instead of chasing promises. Stay awake instead of self-deceiving. Bosham. And above all, protect your self-respect when your emotions want to pull you in the wrong direction. Her logic does not turn you into a controlling man. It keeps you from becoming passive in your own life. No one in this story has to be the villain. No hatred, no revenge, just two people no longer walking the same path. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, not for her but for yourself, is to stop staying where you are no longer chosen. Before this video ends, I want to leave you with a very quiet, very honest question. If today you stop talking about the future, would she move toward you? If that question makes you go silent for a little longer than usual, then maybe you already know what you need to do next. If you want to keep learning how to see things clearly, without bitterness, without lying to yourself, leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe to her logic. Not to become more suspicious, but to respect yourself more. And before this video closes, let's return the focus to where it has always belonged. Not on whether she is right or wrong, not on whether the topic she avoids proves anything, but on something quieter and more essential, how you are treating yourself inside this relationship. Because the real issue is rarely one subject she won't touch. It's whether your self-respect is being slowly traded for uncertainty. A lot of men carry the belief, if I just give it a little more time, things will open up. So they stay patient, they stay calm, they stay hopeful. But sometimes waiting isn't love anymore. Sometimes it's just fear dressed up as loyalty. And in those moments, stepping back is not failure. It isn't weakness. It's simply the point where you stop bargaining with what you already feel and start listening to it. That's what her logic is really here for. Not to turn you into a suspicious man, not to give you tools to control anyone, and not to build a mindset against women. Her logic is a way of observing without panic, seeing patterns instead of reacting to impulses. It's a way of staying calm when emotions want to rush ahead of clarity. And most of all, it's a compass of self-respect, something you carry so you don't lose yourself while trying to keep someone else. So before you worry about the topic she won't discuss, ask yourself this. Are you staying because you feel genuinely seen, or because you're afraid of what you might have to face if you stop avoiding your own truth? If you've ever stood in that space, you don't need to defend your story here. You're not being judged. But if you want to share what that moment felt like for you, you're welcome to, quietly, honestly. And if you want to keep your mind clear, your reactions grounded, and your dignity intact, her logic will still be here. Not to push you, not to pull you, just to walk with you while you stay awake, steady, and self-respecting.